everybody! I am back with my November plan with me, and this month was actually inspired by a spread that I did last year for September. I doodled some mushrooms for a couple of those spreads, and I remember being so unsatisfied with how they turned out. I'm going to include some pictures here so you can see the difference between then and now, and to me, the improvement is huge. I love how my mushrooms turn out this month, and I decided to include this little snail with glasses because why not? It's cute and that's all that matters. I hope y'all like this theme, and let's jump right into the video. So starting off with my cover page, I doodled in a little mushroom cluster with some grass, leaves, and tiny berry branches. I only used about 4 different mushroom types that I repeated throughout the spreads. There's this classic spotted one with a wider bottom that tapers off into a thinner tip. Then there's this larger rounded cap one, as well as some long, thin, stringy looking ones, and I also included some short, thicker button mushrooms in later spreads. To create some dimension to the mushrooms, I made sure to draw some where you can see the bottom ridges so they look like they're leaning backwards a bit, and I also added little details to the bottom of the caps and the tops of these stems. For the little snail, I gave him some tiny round Coke bottle glasses and little pink blush patterns on his cheeks to help break up the green color a little bit. Then to fill in some empty space, I added twinkling stars and circles around the top, and I threw in a calendar at the bottom. I actually bought a brown Micron pen because I thought brown would fit with a fall theme better and be less harsh than black. So I used that to write out November, and I really like how it turned out. I did use a normal black Micron pen for the doodling because the nib was much smaller and better for tiny details. And now moving on to the colors, I used a bunch. The exact ones will be listed down below, but basically I'm using a bright red, a reddish orange, a pale pink, a light golden yellow, 2 different shades of a pale green, a light tan, a beige, a light brown, a reddish brown, a dark brown, and a pale gray. I know that was a lot, but you can of course use less if you don't want to go that color crazy. Again, just to add some more details and dimension to the doodles, I used 2 to 3 layers of a color to add some shading to certain areas, like the bottoms of the mushroom caps, and I also used the pale gray to outline the little stars. Moving on to the calendar spread, at the very top I doodled a little mushroom forest across the page like a banner. Here you can get a better look at all of the different mushroom types I used, and I filled in empty gaps with little leaves and berry branches. At the bottom, I drew a little mushroom log, which was actually inspired by the mushroom log furniture from Animal Crossing, and I added my little snail on top. I had some extra space underneath the calendar, so that's where I put my to-do section with a little wooden sign. Again, I wrote out November using the brown pen, as well as to write the days of the week to outline the entire calendar shape and for the to-do writing lines. Then I just colored in all of my doodles. I used the red, orange, yellow, green, and beige markers to stripe the tops of the week, and the pale gray to add a drop shadow to the calendar. Now for my trackers, I had a lot of fun creating them. My mood tracker is a bit different than what I normally go for. Usually I use a layout where I just color in little sections, but this time, since I am obsessed with these mushroom doodles and since they're pretty simple to do, I decided to create this big empty section where I will actually draw the different mushroom types depending on my mood. So the border is 26 across and 32 down. I made sure to leave a little space at the top. I drew 5 lines going across the page with 6 squares between each one, so I had enough room for the mushroom doodles, and then I just spaced out the dates underneath the lines, and I was able to fit 6 days for each row. To represent when I feel really happy, I will draw this large white and red spotted mushroom. Then I will use these 2 gray tall thin ones for when I'm feeling okay. Then this orange rounded one for when I'm not doing so good. And then this short brown button mushroom for my really bad days. For November 1st, I just drew in a really happy mushroom as an example to show you how I will track my moods, and I included some little stars around it just because I like how they look. For my mood tracker title, I just used a hanging wooden sign design to match it with the to-do sign on the calendar spread. Then next, for my habit tracker, I doodled these 4 long thin mushrooms where I added the calendars inside the caps. At the bottom, I threw in a couple of smaller mushrooms with my snail taking a little nap. I wrote the habits around the outside of the mushroom caps, and I added a bunch of stars around the empty background. For the mushrooms, I decided to go with the pale gray color, and when I complete a habit for the day, I'll just use that marker to color a box over the date. So hopefully by the end of the month, all the mushrooms will be almost completely colored in. Finally, for my weekly spreads, again, I had to do this Dutch door. I am so sorry if you're sick of this layout, but I just really love how simple it is, and simple is just really what I've been needing these days. So from the edge, I counted 11 squares in and drew a borderline down the page. I doodled some mushrooms with leaves and berry branches at the bottom, and I used my brown Micron pen to write a quote at the top that says, "All good things are wild and free," which I thought was really cute and fit with my naturey mushroom theme. For the writing sections, I used the markers to write the date numbers down the page, and then I used the brown pen to write the days of the week right on top of the numbers. And I also included a note section at the bottom, and I drew a borderline to separate each section. I used the same layout for each week, but I just made sure to switch up the order of the marker colors so they wouldn't look exactly the same. Then on the last weekly page, I again created a borderline down the page 11 squares in from the edge, and I doodled different mushrooms with my snail just chilling at the bottom. Since there was no quote on this side, I made the mushrooms longer to take up more space, and I threw in some stars around as well. Then when I was finished, I just took my scissors and cut the pages in between the first and the last weekly spreads. At the end, I thought some of the mushrooms looked a little flat, so I used my Uniball Signo white pen to add spots to some of the mushrooms, and I made sure to add them to some of the other spreads as well. And that is it for my November plan with me. I am just so happy with how these mushrooms turn out, especially when I look back on how I used to draw them. Last year was my first year of bullet journaling, and I'm really proud of how much I've improved my doodling. If you decide to recreate any of these spreads, please tag me on Instagram at AFZXX3 to be featured in my next videos. Please stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!